Hey there, everyone. I'm Tony from Marathon Mates. On this episode, we will be talking to Jye Strugnell. Now, Jye is a former Indigenous Marathon Project graduate who earlier this year was fortunate to run the Tokyo Marathon in completion of her IMP program. She has an incredible journey to spare. Sharon and I had the great pleasure to meet Jye and Matt as part of our quest at Tokyo, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about Jye during this particular episode. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the 56th episode of the Flying Runner podcast. On this episode, we are talking to Jye Strugnell. Now, Jye is an Indigenous Marathon Project graduate 115, I believe, Jye. Is that correct?
That is me. I wanted 117, but I was too fast.
Now, I first met Jye in Tokyo this year, where she ran the marathon there in order to complete her IMP program. Jye is currently a school teacher working with Indigenous youth, and no doubt we will hear more about that as we go through the program tonight. She tried out for the IMP 4 times before being accepted into the program, and to me, I think that says a lot about grit and determination and probably tells you a thing or two straight away. Jye, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
As we are always excited to talk with people from the Indigenous Marathon Foundation and Project. But it's remiss of me not to introduce my co-host. As always, I'm joined by Tim, who unfortunately does not have Tara by his side tonight. But for the second week in a row, we're going to welcome Lucia Banco to the show. Guys, welcome to the show. Tim, where's Tara?
She thought that Lucia did such a great job last week that she wanted to see Lucia come back and do another turn. But in reality, Tara's listening to her body. She's a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued, a couple of big weeks following the marathon weekend down the Gold Coast. We did Jetty to Jetty over the weekend as well, and she's just knackered. So it's good that you've been able to step in, Lucia, and good that you've been able to take on Tara's position. And, welcome again.
So Lucia, have you read the run sheet?
For the second week in a row, I've printed it again. And I'm all set to go.
Okay.
I was a bit concerned you could see how long it was tonight.
What was that? Sorry?
I was a bit concerned when I saw it. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot tonight. But then I realised what most of it was.
Yeah. Tim just goes into a huge level of detail during the news. And yes, we'll try and get through that really quickly. And if not, the editing might chop that short. So Tim, you mentioned Jetty to Jetty. How was it? And what else have you been up to?
So, Jetty to Jetty is our sort of shakeout run, I guess, after the Gold Coast weekend. We haven't done much leading into it. We did a 10K run there. I ran with my son, Patrick, or our son, Patrick, and Tara ran with a friend of hers. And it was just a slow shuffle for both of us. I ran with Patrick, as I said. He got a bit of ITB issues at Gold Coast, and he's still recovering from some of that. So it was a bit of a run walk. It was tough conditions as well. A bit windy, bit cold, but stunning. I've put up a video on the Team Ellis Facebook account there of the video from yesterday, and it's a stunning course. It's where we do all of our training and our long runs out there, so we know the course very well. But absolutely stunning run out there.
Yeah. and I can attest it was cold because it was too cold for us to get out on Sunday. So we just did a nice little 7K on Saturday, running together again, Sharon and I, and was meant to go out and do the same thing on Sunday. We all got dressed, jumped in the car. We drove down to our parking spot and we just looked at each other and said, let's go get a coffee. So it was just one of those mornings. So what about you, Lucia? What'd you get up to?
Well, I had a quite exciting way to end the week because I've entered numerous Facebook competitions, Instagram, like tag a friend and you can win this. This one was with a local running store in Sydney called Running Science, based at Roseville. You had to answer 3 questions on each day to be eligible to enter the draw. So one of the questions was, why do you run? And my response, and for the listeners that know me, know that I take the mickey out of myself quite well. And my answer was because people wouldn't want to be around me. Another one of the questions was, what's one piece of advice that someone gave you that running isn't a free sport? And I can't remember what the third one. No, definitely not. And I can't remember what the third one was, but the prize is a $450 pair of Adidas shoes or a strength and conditioning program to the same value. Wow. And I think we both know what I'm going to go for.
Take the shoes.
Yep. So I'm actually going for a fitting on Saturday, so I can't wait. So that was a good way to end the working week. And then just training for Sydney. And again, I'm sticking with the mantra, fun times, not finished times.
Yeah.
Something very interesting that's happened today, which I know I'm probably skipping ahead, but City to Surf has sold out.
Oh, wow.
And I don't recall it ever selling out. So I think it's the first time in a very long time in which City to Surf has sold out.
That's 80,000 runners, I think.
At 80,000.
Normal limit that they have on it. So it's huge.
Yeah.
It's the world's largest fun run, I think they call it, don't they?
And they also call it, it's the Christmas Day for runners.
Oh, that's excellent. Jye, what was your training like over the weekend?
Over the weekend, we had the Darwin Half Marathon, and they have the option of doing it in teams. So I had 3 friends. Out of the 4 of us, 3 of us ran Gold Coast Marathon 2 weeks ago. And then we had a friend who was coming back from long COVID. So the 4 of us, 3 of us PB'd, 1 of us hit a PB that she hadn't run that fast in a while, which was awesome. But I'm pulled up a bit sore, so I was meant to be doing intervals tonight, so I was like, nah, I'll just do this and rest.
Listen to your body. That's correct. Now, Tim, I see on the notes there's something about a Qantas lounge.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a big deal, I think. Our daughter was sitting in the Brisbane Qantas lounge during the week and overheard somebody, we don't know who, talking about running to their friends and talking about you need to listen to this really good podcast called the Flying Runner Podcast.
And truly.
People on there called Tim, Tara, and Tony, and they really talk and make sense. So whoever those people were that were talking about the Flying Runner out there, thank you very much. And thank you for sharing it, I guess, with other people and trying to get them involved. So it's pretty cool. I did say to my daughter, did you reach over and say, that's my mum and dad on there? And she said, no, I was too embarrassed.
Well, whoever you are, thank you so much, because that just has made my day, week, and potentially year. So that
people are talking.
That's absolutely awesome. All right.
Sorry, just one other thing I want to mention. We went to Parkrun on Saturday at Kedron Parkrun. And it was a memorial event for a local parkrunner who passed away recently. His name had been Michael Schultz. Anyone in Queensland who's had anything to do with running for the last sort of 30, 40 years would know of Michael Schultz. He's well known. He's done well over 500 parkruns, and he's one of, I think, only 1 or 2 people that have been to every parkrun in Queensland.
Wow.
And as you can imagine, there's probably in Queensland close to 100 different parkruns or more. And he's been to, he did go to them all. So he unfortunately lost a battle with skin cancer, and died a couple of weeks ago. But they had a big memorial event there for him, which was really nice and really well put on by the local team out there.
So a bit of sad celebration, as we call it, I guess, celebrating someone's immense impact. So, awesome.
That's it.
Oh, thanks, Tim. And now it's time for the news. All right. So, Tim, what's been happening around the world of running these past couple of days?
Well, I'm not going to go.
Oh, sorry. I should say, based on your notes, the last month. Right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go through every dot point on the notes. They're just there for me to guide myself through the next 5 minutes or so. So this week they've announced the Chicago field, the elite field for the Chicago Marathon, which Tara and I are running later this year. They have got 2 of the 10 fastest women lining up for the race. So Satumi Kibiti will be the headline act for the women, and she brings the fastest time, brings her the fastest marathon run this year, and she's she is the 8th fastest woman of all time. So she took out the win in Tokyo when you guys were there earlier this year. Ran 2 hours 15 minutes, so she's going to be there. Yep. In addition to Satumi, we're also going to see Ruth Chepngetich. That's probably the best I can pronounce. I'm sorry, Ruth. She's the 4th fastest woman in history as well, so she'll be there. She came second at last year's Chicago Marathon too. Tony, who came first?
Safana Sain.
Yeah, Safana.
Sorry, you caught me by surprise. The world's best athlete, changing the shape of athletes. She's amazing. But
Tony loves Safan Hassan. If you haven't worked it out.
Did you meet her in the hotel in Tokyo?
No, I didn't. So I was quite dirty that everyone else was meeting Kipchoge and everyone else, and Safan, and I just must have just missed them like sheeps in the night. They would have been pleased to meet me, I guess. So.
In the men's, we've got Amos Kipruto, who won the 2022 London Marathon, and he's 3 times a Marathon Majors podium finisher. And he'll be joined by Vincent Engetich, who holds an identical personal best time of 2:03, and has yet to secure a Marathon Major. So it looks like they're going to be some quick times there in Chicago. They've got some pretty good runners, and as we said, the majors this year are a little bit screwed around by the Olympics because people are trying to go to the Olympics and make a name for themselves there.
And we all know what happened last year at Chicago with Kelvin Kipton. Yep. And it will be once again, it'll be interesting to see whether they retire the number 1 bib or whatever, or pay some sort of homage to him, because that was a phenomenal run in Chicago and such a sad loss so early in his career.
Yeah, and all I can say is Satumi, Ruth, Amos, and Vincent better look out for Team Ellis, because we'll be chasing them the whole way.
And there's also two of my favorite American runners, Sarah Hall and Kira D'Amato, because she got the USA half marathon record in the Goldie half last year.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And Sarah Hall was there this year and came 3rd.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that'll be a good event. Now, the other thing which has created a bit of uproar in the world of running, and it's really interesting. I sort of read this and go, this is a bit weird, but ESPN has announced in the last week their top 100 athletes of the 21st century. So it's from the years 2000 to 2024. And then I read the article and they go, well, we're a quarter of the way through the 21st century, so it makes sense we start to look at that. And it's like, holy crap, we're a quarter of the way through the 21st century. It doesn't seem like that long ago the year 2000 was. But anyway, so the top 10 of the list comprises of some pretty elite athletes. You got Michael Phelps, you got Serena Williams in number 2, Lionel Messi in number 3, LeBron James in number 4, Tom Brady, Roger Federer, Simone Biles, Tiger Woods, Usain Bolt, and Kobe Bryant rounds off the top 10.
Phenomenal athletes.
Yeah. So when we talk about the world of marathon running, there's been one major runner in that 25 years so far of the 21st century that has been undisputedly the GOAT. Two Olympic medals, number of world records, first person to go sub 2 hours. Where do you think Eliud Kipchoge ended up in the top 100 athletes on that list? Nowhere. They didn't even rank him in the top 100, which has caused a huge stir in the world of marathon running. And it's got people questioning whether or not the list is right. And I would argue it's probably not right. But anyway, I might be biased.
I think it's. I read the list just before after reading your in-depth, detailed news notes, and I think it's heavily weighted towards the NBA and the NFL. So
yeah, American sports where there's big dollars. Yeah.
Also,
So sorry, Liz.
I noticed that Team Else isn't on there either.
No, that's a bit strange.
That's a big outrage.
Well, I'm happy to just say we were 101st and we were considered but just missed.
Oh.
I'll put that down to Tara's performance in Boston. There's the reason why we just scraped out the list.
Hope you're listening, Tara.
No, if I was to do the list, I would definitely have him in the top 20, I think, of those athletes of all time, of the past 24 years. But it's hard. You can't compare other runners with other sports. But when you look at Kipchoge and what he's done, it's pretty full on.
Yeah. And just for the viewers and listeners at home, you may hear the occasional jet pilot fly over Jye's house up there in Darwin. So this is what we call, there used to be those scratch and sniff T-shirts where you could scratch something and it smells strawberry. This is like see and feel, right? Hear and feel. So you are hearing pilot jets or jet pilots flying over Jye's house in Darwin. So
training exercises. All right. Now, you know, guys, I'm a scientist by trade. I love a good science study. And I found one during the week. So we had the science study a couple of weeks ago about the benefits of blackcurrant extract from Curragh NZ. Tony, you've put an article out about that this week. There'll be more to come on that shortly. But there's another study that came out during this week, and it's about how running helps improve erectile dysfunction for the blokes out there. So what it essentially is saying is that people who do a lot of running and cardiovascular work tend to have lower instances of erectile dysfunction. They say that the study reviewed 11 randomized controlled trials involving more than 1,000 men with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction. The findings were clear. Men who engaged in 30 to 60 minutes of aerobic exercise 3 to 5 times a week experienced notable improvements in their erectile function compared to those who did not. And those who have severe ED saw an average improvement of 4.9 points on a scale of 6 to 30. So what it says is that exercise, and this is a Harvard University study, so it's actually got some weighting behind it. Good old Boston and Harvard, yeah. But it actually says there that it's around about promoting overall cardiovascular health, which is closely linked to blood flow and all the things that you need to maintain an erection. So when people sit there and go on about, oh, running's bad for you and it's bad for your knees and you're going to have crap knees, you can always say, well, at least I can still get it up. So
You're thinking, where's he going with this? And there you go.
So that's your response, right? But if everyone talks about your bad knees, well, you might have bad knees, but I can still
as long as it's not solving erectile dysfunction while they're out running, because I think that would be quite awkward. So, but anyway, thanks, Tim.
That's the news this week.
That was certainly news, and thank you.
And extra.
Yeah, very much so. All right, let's what everyone's been waiting for. Let's focus back on our special guest, Jye Strugnell. Jye, hopefully you've listened to the podcast. You get a bit of a feel for what we're about. We're pretty informal, but we also like to have chats and love to talk to people like yourself. So we're just going to go and asked you some questions. I hope you're okay with that. Otherwise, I don't know why you're here. So, all right. First up, Jye, let's talk about a little bit about you. Who, we hear with the IMF, people are always really proud of their mob and their community. So let's start there, shall we? Tell us a little bit about your background, who your mob is, and where are you personally located?
Well, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's my mum just putting my daughter to bed in the background there. A bit of a madhouse. So my name's Jye. I live up here on Larrakia country in Darwin. I've been here for 5 years now. I'm IMP grad number 115, and my mob are Nikanya and Yaru from the Kimberley, which is why I always proudly rep my pearls, very near and dear to my heart. I was part of the IMP in 2021, and that was a COVID year, of course. So I feel poor IMP 2020, they didn't get any camps. At least we got one at the very start before the world shut down. Our biggest one was probably with Gold. So when you're in IMP, you start with the Mother's Day Classic 10K in Canberra. Then you go to the Gold Coast half marathon. You used to do the Sydney City to Surf. Then you do your 30K test in Alice Springs and head over to New York. So we were all getting ready to go to the Gold Coast. And then Australia went into lockdown. It was the first time Darwin really had to wear masks in that 18 months in the pandemic. And some of my squad members, they landed in Brisbane and had to fly home. So we all did our half marathons home-based. We didn't make it to Sydney City to Surf. We did a 25K home-based camp, 25K camp where the squad was split up into 3 groups. And then our 30K test was meant to be in Alice, but we all did it at home. And then our marathon, we knew it was going to be in Alice Springs, but unfortunately 3 of our squad members, our head coach Damien and Rob, couldn't make it into Alice Springs because of lockdown. So 10 of us did it there with stand-in coach, who's now an Ironman, Ray Landers, was our coach there. And then Bonnie, Hope and Joy did their marathon in Canberra.
Wow.
Awesome. Now, this next question too, Puss, I'm going a little bit off script here. First of all, why did you decide to join the IMP? And you also mentioned that you applied a few times previously. What is the application process for IMP?
So if it's up to me, I would have joined a long time ago. My first tryout was in 2016 with the coach who was then Mick Rees. It was when I was living in Tassie, and I flew over to Melbourne for the tryout. I was young, 21, didn't know anything about fueling my body. I was so excited to be in Melbourne, so I was hyped up on coffee. They start you off with a plank, so I was pretty exhausted from that. The fellas had to do 5 kilometres and women did 3 kilometres. I was cruising. And then I hit about just over 2Ks and I fainted. That was at Olympic Park, and some of the Collingwood boys were training that day, and I got woken up. I knew it wasn't a dream, because if it was a dream, I would have been in Footscray, of course. The second year that I tried out, 2017, was with the coach then, who was Adrian Dodson-Shaw. He did the project in 2016, I think. And I had to fly to Brisbane. I was still in Tassie. They didn't come for tryouts then. And it was a 3K run. And the most important part, I didn't put that in previous question, was the interview. And that talks about why you want to do it, who you are as a person, the impact it would have on your wider community. In 2016 and 17, I was still really young. I was still studying at uni and just kind of in between. I wasn't really, reflecting on it now, it wasn't the right time. And looking at the squads who went, those people were meant to do it together. I can say that now because I'm not bitter anymore. 2018 was my last year of uni, and I had 2 pracs to do that year, so I knew I couldn't interrupt that. That was the most important thing for me to do. I finished uni in Tassie. We were living in Burnie at the time, and my husband and I both got jobs in Darwin for 2019, and I was so pumped up. I was like, "Yep, try out. It'd be awesome." I ended up having to get a knee reco about a week after our wedding. So there was no running for me. And so 2019 I had off, and then 2020 I was like, I'm working with exclusively Indigenous kids. I'm giving back to community. I've got the big sob story of my ACL rehab. Surely. And then Adi gave me the rejection phone call. And I literally was crying in the Chemist Warehouse car park. And I said, "What more do you want from me?" And he was like, "No, it's your age, next year. And then finding out the turbulent year that 2020 had, I was a bit like, oh, that's silver lining. And then 2021, we had a new person start at work who was part of Darwin Deadlies. I wasn't a part of that run group at the time. That was run by IMP grad Alira Jennings. She was the first Aboriginal woman to do all 6. She's pretty awesome. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I've heard about the Indigenous Marathon Project." And she's like, "Oh, you should try out. So I wasn't really sure. I was like, "All right, we'll get up, we'll go." And it was a rainy, hot February morning. So in Darwin, it's raining pretty much end of December till the end of February. And when it's not raining, it's 32 degrees, 100% humidity. And I rock up there, and that was with the coach, Damien. And if you ever meet Damien, he's one of the nicest people ever, top 10 favourite people, always smiley, always enthusiastic. I'm not a morning person. I'm especially not a morning person for a program that's rejected me 3 times. So he walked up to me and was like, "Good morning." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it was the 3K warm-up, and I ran. And as I was running, I rolled my ankle. And my cousin tried out that year as well. And then everyone overtook me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I either stop or we're going to go." And I was like, if it doesn't work, I'll just go to the doctors, won't go to work. I'll stay home and watch a Truman Show to be fine and work it out. And then I just finished the run. I ended up being the first girl back. I was pretty happy with that. And I did my interview. And I think because I didn't put too much pressure on myself and I was just me, Damien said that I interviewed really well. And then I got the phone call from him. I just finished an F45 class, and I was just going through the Macca's drive-through to just get a coffee. And then his name came up on my Apple CarPlay. And then I was like, "Oh, we're either just going to get a coffee or we're going to get a big comfort food meal here." And then, it was a really good phone call. And I was really happy, and I was really grateful to do it with the people that I did it with.
Amazing stuff.
Perseverance, that's for sure. So it sounds like you've always had a bit of interest in health and fitness and running. So what was your journey like before the IMP, particularly around running? Were you a runner before the IMP? Before
I was
2016? Yeah.
I was not. Even then, my 2016 tryout, my brother-in-law, Edward, was trying to get me ready for it. And running, and I think Edward was only about 17 at the time, and so he just had that natural fitness, and he was a pretty high-level squash player, so he would run and I would yell at him because I didn't want to run. Now I reckon if Ed and I had a running race, I'd beat him. And, and then I would do a sporadic park run. I'd always kind of been interested in health and fitness, like all through high school I wanted to be a physio. And then my mum got into running in 2013. She's done a few 100-kilometre events and a few 50 ultras. Yep. One of them ended up being 110 because she got lost.
That's not uncommon, apparently, in ultras.
My dad has always played football growing up. He's 60 now, 61, and he always played over 35s. So growing up, I played netball. My brother played Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. He's represented in the Australasian nerd competition. And then, so I've always been around sport. But the start of 2021, I was probably at my most unhealthy. Just in my like a holistic view of health, like mentally I was not quite myself. I wanted to stop drinking, but I don't know why I couldn't. And we were in that footy club mentality where you were at footy all the time and you drink, and I just couldn't understand why we were doing it. But at the same time, you couldn't stop because it's so ingrained in our culture to just always have a bevy. And I used to get really bad anxiety, and I just would get the shakes, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I was definitely at my biggest as well. So I think everyone talks about, like, when you're in IMP, it rewires your brain. And I'm sure you guys would have experienced that as well, like running a marathon and training for the marathon. Like, the actual race isn't the marathon, it's getting ready, and your whole priorities change. And the people around you change as well. I think the people who want you to succeed are there, and they understand, like, oh, she can't come out now, she's got to run. She can't come out now, she's got to sleep after.
Yep.
So
that's why Tara's not here tonight.
And you're supporting that.
Yeah.
You're not holding
100%.
it against you, understand. And I think, that came with it as well.
Now, Jye, your 2021 was disrupted by COVID, of course, and you've talked a little bit about that. What I'm interested to hear is, how did you, as another fighter jet goes over,
Pitch black,
so how did you maintain your motivation in training with such a disrupted year, and especially once you knew that New York was off the cards?
So 2021, we came in knowing New York was off the cards.
Gotcha.
And that we were going to be running in Alice Springs like the year before had done.
Yeah.
And I think my motivation kind of spiked in dribs and drabs. And I think what kept me going was my husband was always pushing me to go. I was a very hysterical kind of runner. And I think because I'd been fitter than I was at the start of IMP.
Yeah.
I remember that first 4K run. It was 5 o'clock in the morning before work, and I was stopped at 200 meters, and I was like having domestics with him in the street. All my end, I was just, this sucks. I'm not doing it. And I think what kept me going was the support of him, the support of 3 Darwin Deadlies, Lily, Ange, and Lee. Who would rock up at my house on long run day and be like, we're going. My mum was really supportive, and most importantly, my squad was really important. The 13 people that I did it with, the group chat was always going off. The girls' group chat was always going off. I remember Matt, who I went to Tokyo with, every Sunday the video would come in, it's long run day, and we would all have our little videos in, and we kept each other accountable, which I think is really important that year. And one of the big ones that year was we had a girl, Bonnie, who lived in Burke, New South Wales, and she was the most isolated out of everyone. She did all of her training runs by herself.
Oh, wow.
25K by herself. She did the 30K by herself. And I think that was important to, like, remember, like, she was in New South Wales. Yeah, COVID in Darwin wasn't as severe, but she couldn't even have people run with her in that 30Ks. And I think we just had to remember that we were all doing it for each other and just to keep going, and people were watching you as well.
Yep. Amazing. Now we've mentioned Tokyo a few times, so obviously been very different from Darwin. What were your thoughts on the city and also on the race itself?
So Tokyo was in March, so that meant building up over wet season and build up in Darwin, which was a bit tricky. My daughter was born in February 2023. So over that kind of period, we were going through a few teething moments, a few sleep regressions for all the skills that she was learning. So I had to become friends with the treadmill. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City got me through a lot of those. The city was amazing, and the Japanese people were so nice to inconsiderate Australians who didn't learn any of their language.
That does.
They
We
were
have a-
so patient.
We have a big Japanese listenership, actually. We are
Oh.
rating in Japan. So
Thank you so much. I'm forever grateful. Even when I cracked it in one of the train stations and said, "Nah, I'm catching an Uber." Cannot fault Mari and the gang at Travelling Fit. They made it all so easy and so special. The race was pretty spectacular. I remember looking out our hotel window because that's right where the start line was, and nothing was set up at 5 o'clock that morning. And then, bang, it was all set up and then packed up super quick. It was pretty special. Like, it was such a beautiful day. The sun was great. I remember Rob saying that Australians run really well over there because it's cooler and we've just spent all summer getting ready. There were these Irish people that I met one morning before the marathon, and I got lost, so they walked me back to the hotel. And I saw them the next day at breakfast, and poor things, they said they were so hot and so sweaty. I had my gloves on to about 30 Ks.
because you've just come out of summer in Darwin. So for our listeners, that's like 34 degrees Celsius average days with 90% humidity.
Yeah, and it was just hot, burning.
And you're going to Tokyo with single-digit degrees and overcast and cool type weather. Really, really cold.
It was beautiful, and the corrals, like, everyone was just vibing, and seeing so many people with the 6-star, like, congratulate me, this is my 6-star, was pretty impressive.
That would
My
be
friend
Tony.
I'm going the wrong way here.
Yeah.
It's pretty inspiring to see those. I was in a corral with my good friend Bloss. Her and I are both 30 this year, and we were talking to a woman, Jan, from Canada, who turned 60 this year.
Oh,
And
wow.
she ran her first major when she was 30, and Tokyo was her 6-star. So that was a bit like, full circle.
Yep.
And the race was just amazing, seeing all the Travelling Fit crew out and about, high-fiving each other. I was a bit bummed I didn't get to see, like, Kipchoge and the elites come past. But that's okay. It was just so amazing to see the diversity of people out there, and the shoes.
Yeah.
All the different shoes.
So many
The shoes.
Shoes. Just how many people use different types of shoes, and then you'd see all the people at, like, the 3-hour paces, and they all had the same Nike shoes on, and they didn't make any noise. And then there's me, doof, doof, doof.
Yeah. And didn't Matt from the IMP buy a new pair of shoes the day before at the expo to wear in the marathon?
Oh, no.
We both got sucked in and bought the Tokyo Nimbus
Classic.
26s. And
No.
we were traveling with our good friend Lee, who's a physio, and she's amazing. Shout out to Lee and her coaching business, Running Evolution. We bought the shoes, and we were just telling Lee the whole time, like, we're going to run in these tomorrow. Of course we're going to run. We rocked up to breakfast in them, and she's like, you can't run in them. You can't. You can't. So we were never going to run in them. But it was just to bait Lee.
Nothing new on race day. So being your first marathon, what did you learn about yourself during that run?
That one was our second marathon.
Oh, second. Okay.
Yeah, so we did the marathon in Alice Springs. The one in Alice Springs was tough. I was stuck in the pain cave. Everyone was stuck in the pain cave for a while. That one I was in there for about 7 Ks. In Tokyo, I think I was in there for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I think that comes with, after delivering a baby with 99th percentile head and 97th percentile length, running
You can
pain
do
is
anything.
running pain. It puts it into perspective. And I think having done it before, I learned a bit more about what to expect and where to go. When we ran in Alice, there was 3 loops of the Simpsons Gap Road. And there was, so the 10 of us from IMP, at the start, there was probably 30, 40 people. By the end, there was not a lot of people. So it was really isolating, and the mental games were different. I think the 38,000 in Tokyo definitely changed the vibe, and the cheerleaders and the big taiko drummers on the side did as well. There were about 6 of us who were part of the IMF family who ran in Tokyo, and it was good. I got to see everyone except Renee, who sped off past each other, which was pretty awesome. And I think in that one, I just realized that this is something I'm meant to be doing, and then something that I'm good at. And then I really got rid of that imposter syndrome.
So, Jye, with the Alice Springs one, was there what time of year was that, and what time did you run? What time of day?
That was 23rd of October.
Getting
so
warm.
I was okay because it was at 7 o'clock at night, but Clinton, who was from Adelaide, he was struggling.
Yeah.
The thing I had the issue with was how dry it was.
Yeah.
So we started at 7. I finished about 12:30, and we all we don't really know what happened out there, because I remember Matt was predicted to do 3:40, and he came in at about 4:30. So everyone just kind of had our own. Not to throw Maddie under the bus, it was just supposed to come in first, and everyone was kind of behind their time by about half an hour, 45 minutes. So it was a bit different, and we had all types of weather. It started off nice and cool, and then on one of the laps it started sprinkling rain, and then as I remember running in on the second lap, it was raining, and then there was lightning coming into Simpsons Gap, which illuminated, which was pretty special.
That'd be a rare thing in Alice Springs, a bit of rain and lightning.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was tough, but it was pretty special.
Yeah. And then you did Gold Coast 2 weeks ago, and you looked pretty. I saw you out on course, and of course I saw you at the finish, and you looked very comfortable and very happy, and personally it didn't even look like you'd run a marathon, but no doubt I believe that you did. So since, and then you were, what's next, I guess, is where I'm heading. So what are your plans from here on in?
Well, I'm a bit bummed I didn't get mentioned in the top 10 fastest coming to. I'm not going to Chicago. Next is New York. But on Gold Coast, I felt really comfy. But I didn't realize how close Tokyo and Gold Coast were, but that's okay. Gold Coast, I took 15 minutes off my Tokyo time, which I was very, very happy with.
Wow, that's good.
Even though I had a disrupted training, my daughter's 17 months old, so those parents of young kids know that every daycare bug gets brought home. So my heart rate was all over the place for a while, and it was just about getting it done. I couldn't get those long tempo sessions in, which was frustrating. But then I realized I've got to run easy. That's a bit more important, just getting quality kilometers in.
Yeah.
I ran with IMP grad Shane Cook. That was his 3rd marathon as well. He's been out of running for a while, just to just had some external stuff going on, and we ran it together, and he really supported me through it, and he said I supported him, but he went up to every kid and high-fived them, and it was just a really good day. And my goal was to just get as close to 4:30 as I could, and I got 4:24.
Yeah, awesome.
So, yeah, New York's the next one.
Did you see the graduate this year's IMP team on the half marathon on the Saturday? Did you see them all there?
Yeah, so my husband ran the half on the Saturday as well. And my cousin, who I mentioned in my 2021 tryout, she's in the squad this year. So she had 4 tryouts as well. So, yeah, it was pretty inspirational watching them all get it done and just beat them. They seem like a squad that have really gelled together, really authentic, genuine, happy people to be involved. And just that first half, you've never run that far, and it's such a milestone in your brain to tick over. And now they're going to be running halves every couple of weeks just to build up to that marathon.
That's it. And I really liked at this year's Gold Coast for the half, we saw Charlie Marr out there. So IMP graduate number 1, first Indigenous Australian to achieve the 6 stars. did in London in 2022 when we were there. So it was great to see him out on course running with a number of the IMP team this year to help them along on the course and give them some motivation. So that would have been huge for some of those people to see someone like Charlie running side by side with them.
Oh, he's such a beautiful person and so humble as well.
Yeah.
And just my mum ran the 42 as well, and she just told everyone who Charlie was.
Yeah.
Like, no shame. But Charlie's just really softly spoken, really genuine person, and he's always involved with the foundation because he wants people to succeed in any way they can. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Awesome. Now, you've mentioned that you're doing New York and you've done Tokyo. Have you got plans to do other maras overseas? Like, are you planning on possibly going to the 6 star?
I think eventually that's everyone's kind of goal. Hey, like you do it. I'm really liking Tony's jacket over there.
The Boston
one. I think I'm going to take, after New York, I'm going to take some time off, especially with wet season in Darwin, and just work on the 5K time. There was someone I follow on Instagram, Track Club Babe. She says, like, the secret's the 5K. If you can't run that fast for 5 kilometers, how can you run that fast for 42? And then you think of, like, Elliot, like, he didn't start with the 42. Genevieve Gregson started with the steeplechase. So just really working on that speed and giving myself a break. My husband's an ED doctor, so he's got his final specialist exams next year as well. So kind of need to be available for that and working together as a team really well. I think Berlin could be on the cards for next year. It's in the school holidays. It's September. His exams are in November. So my daughter might come over and he could stay here or something. Or if Sydney becomes that 7th major, sneak down to be.
Yeah.
Berlin is good. I like Berlin.
Yeah.
So how do you take an experience like running a marathon in Tokyo back to your communities or the youth, young girls that you teach and mentor? How do you help inspire people when you go back to communities using something like Tokyo?
I think it just, for me, like, it opened up like a whole world. I remember I used to hate doing Japanese in school, but I'm so bummed that I didn't engage with it more. And I think it just shows like another option of where running can take you. I know after you run the marathon, you've got that like invincible feeling and you want to be involved and you're so pumped up. And I think that really supported me in growing Darwin Deadly's run group as part of the IMF Raw groups with the awesome committee that we have that do that. After I ran Tokyo, I got offered a new job at the school that I'm at now. And I think it really empowered me to just like, this is my sense of self. This is who I am, and pushed me to do that. And I just think running's taken me a lot of places. Like, I'd never been to Alice Springs before, took me there. It took me to finish with Pat Farmer with his lap around Australia at the Rock for the Yes vote. Took me to Tokyo, and it's taken me to meet so many amazing people as well. So I think that's how I use it as like a tool for that.
Yep.
Excellent. And are there other runners or people out there that inspire you to keep running?
Oh, so many. So I'm feeling a bit ginger at the moment. Like, I've got a really sore back and my calf. Like, I couldn't run tonight. So when I get a bit injured, I get a bit sad and soppy on my Instagram. I did a big post about there was an article in Runner's World, and Cheeky Run Club talked about how marathon running is a team sport today. And the Runner's World article talked about collecting friendships, not medals.
Yep.
And I think it kind of comes with like what the session is. Like, sometimes if it's a speed session, my husband inspires me so I can beat him, so I can get faster. Or like, sometimes it'll be my dad. Like, sometimes I think it gets hard and he inspires me because he just keeps playing football all the time, even though he's old and gets injured. or sometimes it's just the people that you kind of know at parkrun and they give you a high five as you run past them, or definitely like things. Oh, one of the Darwin Deadlies, Lily said to me, said, "This is a run. You've done things that are way harder than that." And you start thinking about those kind of things. And I think at the end of the day, like my biggest inspiration at the moment is my daughter, and just wanting to be a really positive role model for her. And winning that parent race on sports day at her school will be pretty awesome. Me and my husband rock up in a pair of meta speed bridges or something.
Yeah.
The other parents.
Watch
Somebody's
out.
a little competitive, aren't they? It's good. It's good. So, Jye, last question, I guess, from me. But what's your best bit of advice for any Indigenous girls who are out there who may be inspired by your efforts but don't have the support or self-confidence to take the first steps towards running a marathon?
I would say don't start with a marathon. Don't start by finding. You can't be what you can't see.
Yep.
I think that's important to remember, and finding IMF on Instagram or Facebook, and then following some of the female grads or who's female squad members or non-binary squad members, or even some of the guys if they're inspiring to you. Carl Wagner, follow him. No. And having a go and not being shame. And I used to get really embarrassed about going out for a run, and then you realize that no one actually cares what you're doing. No, everyone is so wrapped up in their own goals and journey that they're not worried about what you're doing. And then I found that people at parkrun, like, yeah, the speedsters are super intimidating, but they're also some of the nicest ones there. And they're really, and people want to help you. I'd say have a look on the Indigenous Marathon Foundation website. They've got a list of all the raw running groups as well, and I'll link you right to their Facebook page, or even just message the IMF Instagram or Facebook directly. That's run by grad Tanisha Atkinson, who did the project in 2019, and she's just the best and will always support anyone who has any questions with that.
Excellent. I've got to share the story of when we first came into contact with Jye in Tokyo, and we were lining up to do the bus tour, which then ultimately took us out to the expo, and Matt, who is a lovely bloke, was running late or had to go back and get something, and Jye being the school teacher and put on her best and loudest school teacher voice to let him know to hurry up. And I have never seen anyone run as fast as I saw Matt run to the bus from the KO Plaza Hotel. So, and then Jye said, "Hi, I'm Jye. I'm a school teacher," and then just jumped in the bus. I think that's how it went. Yeah, it was awesome. So
he's a school teacher too, as well, Matt.
Just a much more tardy one, so coming late. Jye, the last segment of the show before we sort of start the wind down is I always ask our guests a fast six. It's six fast questions, and hopefully 6 fast answers. So, are you ready to go? Are you game?
Will it become 7 if Sydney becomes in?
Yeah, well, you might have to. That's a really good pickup. It could do.
That will throw out all the future scientific studies we do with all the answers later on. We won't have enough data.
All right, Jye, you ready?
I'm ready.
Podcast or music?
Music.
Best running advice ever given to you?
Just keep going one step at a time.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Get good socks and have a go.
Uphill or downhill?
Uphill.
Yes.
I always wait for the noise from the peanut gallery whenever people say uphill. Gels or blocks?
Blocks.
And favorite shoes to run in?
Favorite shoes? Oh, that's tricky. I'm going to say Kayanos. I've run 3 marathons in Kayanos, but I love my meta speed edges for the quickness. I'm not game enough until I hit that sub-4 to run a marathon in them yet, though.
Okay, awesome. So that's the latest version of the Metaspeed?
I got some from Santa, so I think there may be the second latest version, not the Paris ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Santa's always a little bit behind.
That's exactly what to get.
I saw them at the expo at Gold Coast, and those Metaspeeds are just so light, and I love the colorway just quietly. I love that really deep orange, burnt orange, bright
Looks
orange,
fun.
whatever you want to call it. It looks amazing. So if only I was fast enough to wear them. So, all right. So before we finish up, Jye, thank you so much for you're a natural storyteller, by the way. Just I thought I'd share that. So, but before we finish up, we always get a tip from Tim, and everyone on our Instagram loves Tuesdays because that's Tim's tip day on our Instagram. So, Tim, what's your tip for the week?
All right. So my tip this week is to go out there and support some other groups like the IMP as one group out there. As you've just heard, there are lasting benefits from programs like the IMP. So they really help not just one people, but they help communities and groups of people, and they last into the years going forward. So supporting programs like the IMP, there's others around there. I know when we were in Boston, there was a group called the I can't remember their name, but they're the Black Runners that live in the Boston area, and they all have their own little running group and always looking for support as well. But it has some big impacts on people, and you may not always realize it, but a simple thing like going to a website like the IMF or the IMP, donating some money or buying a shirt can make a really big difference to other runners out there. So I know times are tough for everybody. I know people are having troubles with cost of living and all that, but if you can spare some dollars, make a donation, and it'll make a massive difference to programs like the IMP, which are generally funded from within. They don't get a lot of external sponsorship dollars. You know, there's a couple ASICs and a few others sponsors them, but generally it's funded from donations. So do yourself a favor, I guess, and help out some of these running groups that are out there that make a difference. Excellent
Tip for this week. So we're just about to end, but Lucia, what's on next week? Wait a sec, are you coming back next week?
Well, I haven't been asked yet, so we'll see. We'll see.
You can come back. You can come back.
Well, what's happening then next week?
What's happening next week? So recently, you guys have done Goldie Mara, and now it's time to focus on what's next for Team Ellis and for Tony. So next week they're going to be talking about what's coming up for them, all their different events, running, and the training that's going to get them to the start line. And as they say, one adventure ends and another one starts. And as per usual, I can't wait for next week's episode because you never know what's going to happen.
And also because I just wrote that in there. But no, we'll get you back on as well, Lucia, and you can talk about what you're doing as well next.
Absolutely. We've got still some major goals to kick this year.
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
Lucia, thank you so much. That wraps up the episode tonight. Jye, before we finish up, I just really want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute blessing speaking with you today. We can't wait to follow your journey over the next couple of months and to see where you go with your running journey, and also obviously checking out how you go once you get into the 5Ks and see how much speed that you can actually pick up. Now, is there a social media account that you would like to share if anyone does want to follow your journey after listening to you tonight?
I started a little running one. It's at Jye Running, JYE Running. My personal Instagram stories just got a bit chaotic, I think, about running stuff. So I made that one. And the other one would be just the Indigenous Marathon Foundation. They talk about this year's IMP, and you can find people near you as well.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we've got those links in the show notes so that people can follow from there.
Just following him now.
So if I can just give you one tip for New York, which will be my tip for everyone that hasn't done New York. In the Start Village, if they're giving out the Dunkin' Donut beanies, get it. It's a great souvenir. I regret not getting one when I did it in 2016. So that's my tip for New York.
I was laughing at my training program. It wants me to do easy runs around rolling hills, and that's how J.R. Tolkien described the Shire. So I was like, I don't know where I'm going to find the Shire.
Where are you going to get rolling hills in Darwin? It's pretty flat.
I just got to go. There's 3 hills that I just have to loop together.
Yeah,
Just
sounds
loop.
like. Yeah, New York is a rolling course, of course. Of course, that didn't really make too much sense, and it's usually the bridges or the overpasses where you are going to feel some pain. And I'll fully support Lucia on the Dunkin' Donuts beanie. I regret not grabbing one. Sharon ran with hers down the back of her pants all when we ran it in 2018, and she has got one somewhere here. I've got no idea where it is, but she keeps reminding me she's got one. I don't. So
you'll get one this year, though?
I will certainly get one, and I'll make sure I lose Sharon's before we jump in the plane to come back home. So, all right. So also I'd like to thank Lucia for joining us. Thank you so much, Lucia. And of course, open invitation to you to join us every Monday or whenever you feel like it. So it's entirely up to you. You're now in the Flying Runner chat group for the hosts. And if ever you're not doing anything on a Monday night, feel free to just jump in and join us. So
Awesome.
of course, for all our listeners out there, if you've liked the episode or just like the podcast itself, we'd really appreciate if you could like the episode, leave a comment, subscribe, do whatever you can, because the more people that can hear about the podcast, the better we feel, I guess, but also the enjoyment that they'll get from listening to us waffle on with some decent advice every now and again. As usual, our videos are available on Spotify and YouTube, audio on Apple and Amazon, and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we're going to catch you on the very next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running. Bye.